Okay, Mike Curtin here again with the Z35 mini excavator generation 2. I got the cab, and today we're going to make a video on how to change the gear oil in the final drive right there. It's part of the 1,000-hour service. Right out of the gate, you're going to need a 5/16 torque socket, which I started for the video. You're going to need some 90 weight gear oil. The manual says 90 weight, straight 90, but can't find it. I called the dealer. They said 80, 90 is just as good. Don't worry about it. I like a little brake fluid, brake cleaner before I get going, because I like to clean the porch really good, let it dry for a minute just to make sure there's no dirt in it. And then I take a little awl and I get all that shit out of there, because when you take this out and you're pumping oil in it, you don't want to get any of that stuff in there, because a final drive for these things, a rebuilt one starts at like $2,200–$2,300. And if you didn't got one, you could pay as much as $3,500 for one. So get that stuff out of there. Don't let it get stuck in the gears. And then you're on your way. The next thing I like to do is have 2 cups here. And on top of having 2 cups, I have a pail. I can throw some waste oil in as well. So what I do is I take the cup and I put it right underneath. For one, you want to put both of these nuts. It's a 5/16 torque socket right on top of each other, just like that. And then taking that one out, right after it gets started. Once you can reach your fingers on it, it'll come out pretty easy. You just want to take it out nice and slow. And then you shouldn't have any oil. If you have to, it should be a little bit like that. And then you put the cup right underneath it, right? Just like that, catch it. And there's nothing there. All right, we're gonna have to put that down for a second. And we're gonna have to do the same thing with the bottom one. This is where all the fluid is gonna come from, right? So you wanna just have a cup ready to go. It's tough for me to do with one hand, right? But you just get it started. I'm gonna put the phone down for 1 second. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, second nut is out, and you can see the final drive. The fluid is just pumping out. So as this cup fills up, we have another cup right there on standby. And while that's pumping out, we dump it into this bucket here. And hold on a second. We're gonna mute this until just a little mechanic ingenuity here. Instead of holding that cup while it drips out, I just prop it up with a brick. The first cup filled up, I dumped it into the bucket, and I tossed the second one on there. That's going to drain down for another minute or so, and then I'll show you how to rotate the machine so we can begin. All right, so now that we're done dripping out a little bit here, we'll clean it up. Go slow, go slow. Go slow. Slower. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. A little more. A little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. Keep going. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, and stop. And that's perfect. That's the fill position. Okay, we're back into the fill position. Now we're going to fill in here, and we're going to let it run out here. And that tells us from here down is full. Little trick here. I like to cut my caps and my bottles on a slight little angle like that, so I can just dump them in. This takes time because it's gravity fed, and if you pump it in too fast, it will come out that top screw. So I push it in there and I just kind of let it go. And I'll show you what it's like when it's full. Okay, we're back. So I don't know if you can see this, it's kind of hard, but I'm pouring downhill on the top hole. And now it's just now starting to pour out the bottom hole. So that tells me that the bottom is full. And I'm going to let that go for another minute or two and use the bottle. The manual says it calls for 0.53 of a quart. This is 1 quart, so it's a hair more than half a quart. Or until the reservoir leaks out steadily. And it looks pretty steadily to me. A little slow, but that's it. We're gonna put the nuts on. Now that we're full, and you can see it kind of spewing out the bottom, I like to just hand start it like this. I always put the top one in first, let it sit for another minute or two, make sure nothing leaks out. You can actually overfill these, but it's hard. So with that said is, you know, just hand tighten them like that, wipe the oil off, torque them down, and you're good to go. Okay, we're all done here. Well, I want to make one final note here, that with these bolts, the manual says to torque them 15.9 to 17.4, and what they're getting at is they probably want you to start with 15.9, torque it and see if it's leaking, and then you can go as high as 17.4. If it's still leaking at 17.4, then it's probably an O-ring problem on that nut. So after you're done with it, give them a good clean out like that, right? Run the machine for a little bit, make sure you're good and dry here and clean, and then check it, you know, every day before you start it, and especially the first few times after you're done with this change, and make sure you're not seeping anything. If you are, it may be time for some O-rings around those nuts. Sometimes when you're cleaning them, it's nice to use a little awl so you can get in there, or a screwdriver or something. Try to dry it as best you can. And that's all there is to it, guys.